Om Ahom.
Okay. Continue.
Oh, so good something.
Your time was on. Pardon.
That chang just hot chang yeah.
So I think where we left off was the last thing I said was so yeah, as a quality of a good quality of being born as a human being in this world is that as human beings we possess intelligence, which allows us to understand the workings of karma, cause and effect. That's a characteristic of a human being. A human being, it can understand meaning and it can express meaning. So, and the meaning to understand now in the Buddhist teachings is the workings of karma, and then from there on, a vast motivation of bodhicitta. When if only one individual gives rise to bodhicitta, that benefits all sentient beings. And so this is what the Buddha had realized, and therefore his bodhicitta became immeasurable. That is why we speak about the inconceivable, immeasurable qualities of a Buddha. Now, for example, a king who understands karma and has altruism, what will they do? They will want to. They will want that. They will want for their people to experience freedom, peace, and happiness. And then, what does a person or king who doesn't understand karma do? They will separate self from others. It's me. It's them, and they create a lot of misery for them. That is because they don't understand karma. But the real fault, the real problem is self-grasping. Because of self-grasping, people cause all kinds of suffering. On the other hand, if one just has a slight self-grasp, a slight sense of altruism, and one engages in great activities that bring happiness and benefit to others. That is something we can all understand. And that is why the Buddha had said, cultivate the four immeasurables. And when we do so, and we wish for the benefit and happiness of all sentient beings in the three realms, it should not just remain lip service, but we should actually practice that. It is said that the root of the Buddha Dharma, the teachings, is bodhicitta. And we engage in this practice of Guru Rinpoche really in order to realize that. Previously, in times past, beings experienced more happiness. Nowadays, there is more suffering. We are in the degenerate age. And this is the time where the 5 kinds of afflictive emotions in the minds of beings are constantly increasing. That is why there is so much unbearable suffering all over the world. So we need to understand why there is so much suffering. It arises from the mind. What we put out there will also come back to ourselves. When we if we're able to see that it all arises from our own mind, then we will be able to clearly understand karma. So self-grasping is harmful to yourself and brings suffering to others. Love is beneficial to yourself and brings happiness to others. And so, as you mentioned, everything has an outer inner aspect, and so the secret aspect of the sadhana practice is, as the Buddha said, if we want to benefit sentient beings, the Buddha said, a single state of meditation, a session of meditation benefits all sentient beings in the 3 realms of Bodhisattva. Or, for example, the heat generated in an ocean benefits the entire ocean, all the ice blocks melt. So that is why we engage in sadhana practice. And so who has realized the inner meaning of such practice? It is Guru Rinpoche, it is the Buddha, it is all the Buddha. And one might think that, well, they're not here now, Guru Rinpoche is not here now, but actually he's here now, the Buddhas are here now, because their minds are here now. Their mind is the Dharmakaya, pervading like space. It never goes anywhere, it's always here. And whoever supplicates them will encounter them. just like a rainbow in the sky. They will encounter the Zambogakaya form of Guru Rinpoche, and Guru Rinpoche will actually be there. There are many stories actually, many stories that tell of actual direct encounters with the deity. So what we need to do is we need to open our faith, our devotion. We need to be open to be able to perceive that those deities were actually there. So that is the purpose of engaging in sadhana practice. And if we practice with this understanding, then a result can be attained. So in the sadhana, in the mantra invocation, it says, all appearance is the Guru's form. You really, when you understand that, you can understand that all sentient beings possess Buddha nature. This sadhana, even though it is very concise, it is vast in meaning. So Guru Rinpoche is present right now, and he never goes anywhere. He is beyond coming and going. Dharmakaya is always places. Milarepa also said, you can read that in the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, he said that I go nowhere, I abide nowhere, I pervade the 5 elements. Whoever supplicates me, I will be right next to them. That is also a quality of the Buddhist teachings or a Buddhist practitioner, that they do not tell lies. Therefore, we can put our trust into practices such as this, because it is something that Guru Rinpoche himself has said. It is like a prophecy that he has given in the treasure text, the Dharma teaching. He predicted that, in particular in our times of degeneration, these teachings will be very beneficial. That is when we should supplicate. And so, again, we should analyze, think about, is there a benefit or is there no benefit in our supplication, in our practice? Just like scientists like to investigate things. When we investigate it, when we look into it, we can see its real actual effect. And how special the uniqueness of Guru Rinpoche's practice. And so, because it is a very special practice, and the Vajrayana in general, it is not something that we should just practice now for one day over the live stream, for example. But whatever practice we engage in, we should continue to practice at home. That is why we practice all kinds of different sadhanas, because people have different capacities and they have different preferences in terms of practices, different past karmic connections to various practices, and it is to suit all of their different dispositions that we engage in all kinds of different sadhana practices here. But you should take a practice and engage in it on a continuous basis, so not just for a one-day event or so. So also please keep that in mind. That's all. That's all.
Oh, wow. That's right.
That's all.
Oh, yeah. Dari Gongli, Sen Yu Mong Nga Tang, Sen Yu Wang Nga Tang, Nan Yu Mong Nga, Sawa Yi Xing Nga, Din Zhe Wang Di, Dek Sao Ha Go Wei Di, Dek Gang Li Di, Zhe Wang Zhen Tam San Zhe Wang Yu Li, Di Gang Li Di, Di Go Song Tok Yung Din Chen Li Nga, Di Zhe Rong Li Di, Min Go Song Tok Yung Din Chen Li Nga, Min Yung Gu Yu Li. Kam dirjik nibo yu che di kam di tam di minluk jikba, minji jikba, pelu goyo na da lama kade na jidanga kade na kare na di rana kade sei jin she na dan jirimini nang tukso dan jikso yu mari di jawa tam ji xing yi shi long da jik di yi shi di ta di nime wa daji nime wa sem di yi shi di daji nime wa so ha go nam dili dar tap tam shi la 전 돌들들이 나라 타방마 되도시로 봐서 응리 되죠 이제 차대요리 연말에 치바 이 대당의 랑게 냠이다 맞잖아 대당랑 이 차대요리 대들이 다다다리 공나 책게 모성 가리도 공다데 그뭐 남칼을 요리 Tumok Namkadi, Tumok Chukayan Java Chimoyore, the same the book, the same from the book, another Namka, the same Jacquia Minatini, Namkati, the Malan Jeditri, the book got the Kalaman, the Yore, the book gone to chat song, she done talk, Majari Yongti, Chado Trade. The thing on me, the cost of Toyo Chay Michael to me, Gore. The Kodea, Mina, the Watalabe, me, they really shoot on me, Gore. Mamma, the Captain Dua Tokla, John Yore. The me, Mammy, Chepa, the Kali, Gore, the party now, Chapagan, go take up the tree to Teta, party tree to Teta, shut the song Yore. Pardoli teni chachare shinga la tamji charna la re re gori teni u nga charons u nga teni ta rana u tela u te nyam de u sam sa ni charons songre u te sa sawo mai ba hok chu chong chong de diga u sawo de charmo de sawa de yishiga u masawa de teni mata ko go song teni mata ba go ma ga ba song 다 마다니가 냠대 사용을 송 그랬더니 년간나라고 대책좀 보대 오 차례 사용됐다 토갈 보면서 때 하고 요리 토갈 막고 세시라 하고 말이 그랬더니 세종왕가 대표다 나는 야총아 나그 야총랑 이거 사용거리 이 스다른 용왕가랑 진리가 요다라 진당 세대 차바다 롱다 니 말씀 좋나 이 야총아 사용을 요리 대는 이제 남 셈나 드리다랑 게 다디도 제는 다다다 마다보 얼마 독사는 거요래. 저 가리게 상무들이 좋다다 sen나인데 와요 배들이 데르들 독사는 거 sen나에 좋다다 sen나인데 와요 배. 이 sen나자는 유몽 독사한 거래. 대마도도 저게 독사 성을 보나 들이들이 sen나에 들었다 도요래. 이 자타디 세용몽가다 낭이시가 난 용왕아 상왕 이시가 대화도 야고시나 이렇게는 탐색을 드리다 빼고야 고 차야 요래 이 말이 봐야 돼 드리다니 사진가 딘솔도 나가 송고 요래 도네 트바선 도네 트바들 네 이제랬다 왔다당 가딘솔도 나가 가르쳐 먹는데 네 마시 라코고 알지상하 제를 받은 도다 나시 이제 생후 이제 니가 생후 이제 남지 셉시니가 이제래 다와래지 내가 들리다라는 게 셈마다 대왕 같으니 다 좋아를 독사성지 대 내가 채는 저런들 나 그것도 맞다 그랬더니 자연거리마도 이제래 대답지 냐와 채강녀와 차대요 말이야 다 채강녀와 차대 대답을 나를 내가 박차대 마저 받듯이 냐와 야다 나와 샤는 이 박차도 봐도 저 성미들이 미로 요래 들이 이제는 셉지담제 사제니 소리 대제 코는 하장 피바요리 그런 가서 아이면 코나와요 말이 셈데 사제이면 사제의 셈이도 요 말이 대외를 때니 딱 톱트에 셈 사제에서 대자와사면 무슨 말이 변나 자세 도미 무슨 소리지 딱 톱트에 셈 사제에서 셈데 데이터 하고는 이제 내록도 싫어 그래 답게 고시반이 고시반은 이제는 다 맹아시기요래. pero sak신시는 사자 제분 맹아지 설다게 에바데샤 맹아들 하장 가르쳐 총종의 실 삼하고도 봐. 대도 맹아 체력을 때로만 뭐 요래. 체력을 기바도 총총도 하고 별다 드신 총총 그 못을 그냥 랑만 못을 말진 짝자 요래. 대라 빼기다 드신 소자고 있어 요래. 왜 대응이 마다버서 같은 게 대도 인절로 그렇고 시랍을 때는 고로 요리 대 시랍 때가 되는 배누야 배주 감는 다니는 유모 다니는 데 시랍 다 배누야 듣고 요리 다들 다고 약그 요리 오야 피바 배누야 듣고 요리 배는 잡을 체력 탑재게 피바된 남들 못 알아서 차마 피바 사와리 대녀도 다니다 되니 다니다 차도 대라서 내네들이 다다다 작가 빨라 tukwa다 다지니 차례 들이 나라 차례 예는 나와요 그 말이 동답을 이거 하고 다지니 매워 하고네 Ramji, the Trebi Badi, that Trebi by just had the Dinibam, they have one minute that the Numong in the Vadi, this is our Chaban, the young Joshua, but there are the book in July or the Mong Mamka, or the talk your young shit down with just talk the mock sugar, the Yori, Custom Jala, the mock sugar, Yori, Rochashi down the most, or the mock she down talk, no chat song, the custom talk Yori, Gadi, you think took the damn took the told you, this was some hard. This is a hard and put some chores somewhere. According to already.
Ina, I don't. We can't hear you. Maybe restart your Zoom again?
Hello?
We can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
So, as you mentioned before, there is a connection between the outer 5 elements, the inner 5 reflective emotions, and the secret 5 wisdom. It's important to understand this relation clearly. And then these sets of 5 are also related to enlightened body, speech, mind, activities, and qualities. So that is when the inner afflictions mature. They mature into enlightened body, speech, mind, activities, and qualities. In all beings possess Buddha nature. The way the mind matures is always the same, and what needs to mature is always the same. So, to mature the mind, we visualize the form of the Hiram or think of the Guru, and they may have a distinct outer appearance with different ornaments and different ways of appearance, but their inner mind is always the same. It is that within the expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. Primordial wisdom means that there is no duality between self and other. So that is really the essence of all deity, all sadhana practice. It is that appearances are recognized as the deity, sounds as the mantra, and thoughts as the display of primordial wisdom. And we should engage in deity practice on the basis of this understanding, recognizing the deity, our true nature, as it actually is. So if you practice continuously in this way, then naturally all appearances become the deity sound, the mantra, and thoughts, the play of samatha, of primordial wisdom. Previously, in a previous section, there was I might have mentioned something, mixed up something a little bit, so I apologize. But what I meant to say in terms of the elements is that I think we did say that is that ignorance is a space, and the space is connected to the Dharmakaya. Within space, all beings' mind is one and the same. Also, we say actually, even though ignorance is the base element, actually ignorance, also related to enlightened form. That is the form of the Buddha Vairochana. Then speech, enlightened speech, is related to attachment, and enlightened mind is related to hatred or anger. Enlightened qualities are related to pride, and enlightened activities are related to jealousy. So when our mind matures, it matures into these qualities of enlightened body, speech, mind, activities, and qualities. So basically the mind matures into the 5 kinds of wisdom. For as long as the mind is in an immature state temporarily, what manifests are the 6 grams of samsara. So what is the difference between matured or immatured, ripe or unripe? For example, when we die and we go into the bardo, there are various appearances manifesting to us in the bardo. There are also many teachings on that, for example, based on a text called the Gongchi Gyamso, or the various bardo instructions clearly explain this point. And so what these teachings explain is that in the bardo, the deities of the 5 Buddha families will gradually appear. These deities are a projection of the 5 kinds of primordial wisdom, manifesting in a form of 5 kinds of light, 5 colors. And it is said that in the bardo, 2 kinds of light of each color appear. One light is very clear, dazzling. The other kind of light is very dim, a shallow, dim, uncomfortable light. And so they appear together. These 2 kinds of light in each color appear together. The dim light is the light of samsara, and the dazzling clear light is the light of wisdom, of the 5 kinds of wisdom. So, because in the bardo, the perception of pure and impure is unobstructed, there is a perception of 2 kinds of light, the dim and the brilliant, clear kind of light. And these lights essentially are the light of Buddha nature. So those who are familiar with the practice of Tsok or leaping over, will be familiar with that, might understand that. If you're not familiar with this practice, it might be more difficult to understand. But in any case, as a sign that of the 5 wisdoms, of the 5 kinds of wisdom, a deity manifests in 5 colors, a 5-colored light. And a sign of that, for example, is a rainbow appearing in the sky. So a rainbow appears from the conglomeration of clouds and humidity, water coming together. That leads to the appearance of a 5-colored rainbow. And so similarly, through the mind mixing with self-grasping, that leads to the appearance of 5 impure or dim kinds of light. So we say 5, sometimes we say 6, and that is because attachment and stinginess are strongly connected to each other, and sometimes they're grouped into one. But when grouped separately, then we have 6 afflictions. Otherwise, we have 5 afflictions. So, as we have said, ignorance is the form, attachment is speech, enlightened speech, and hatred is enlightened mind. And as we have also said, the outer 5 elements are connected to this. Inner 5 afflictions are connected to the secret 5 wisdoms. It's very important to understand that connection and to recognize that within you. There is a supplication prayer on the 5-fold path of Mudra that also exemplifies how the deity is primordially fundamentally established within us. And so in that prayer it says, when you recognize that everything that appears and exists is the divine form of the deity, then you have perfected the generation stage of secret mantra. That's the perfection of the generation stage of secret mantra. that is to recognize that the outer appearing universe and the inner sentient beings are fundamentally pure. Only temporarily, due to being in an impure state of mind, the 6 realms of samsara manifest. Just like the temporary appearance of ice that is actually water, or a cloud in the sky. Fundamentally, these do not exist. They're just water. Just temporarily, beings experience the results of their own karmic imprint. But that is only for as long as they prevail. When those karmas exhaust themselves, and again they are no longer here, and all these appearances will disappear. And then on the basis, as the Buddha had said, all beings are actually Buddhas. It's very important to understand that, because when you understand that, then there is no more basis for saying, I am a Buddhist, he is not a Buddhist, and so on. That is because you understand that all beings have mind, and there is no other Buddha than the mind. And Maitreya also said to Sangha, recognize the mind that is free or devoid of having anything, needing to remove anything from it or add anything to it. The mind as it is. And that needs to be recognized. And what opens the avenue for us recognizing that is the so-called fifth instruction. It is called the Upadesha in Sanskrit. So it's called the Mahamudra Upadesha, the fifth instructions of Mahamudra. Fifth instruction means it is an essential, extremely important instruction that is concise. And through this concise, essential instruction, everything can be understood. And it's just like as a scientist understands something on the basis of its smallest particle, for example, an atomic particle, for instance, like a uranium atomic particle can be used to create an atomic weapon, a nuclear weapon. With intelligence, scientists have realized that. But of course, intelligence can be used in both beneficial and also harmful ways. When intelligence or wisdom is used with self-grasping, then it brings benefit but also harm. For example, science has developed beneficial things like airplanes and cars and so on. But then when the mind becomes mixed with selfishness and jealousy, then these can also become destructive. And then countries use them to make war with each other. And that is because there's an attachment to the self which necessitates an aversion against others. They have not recognized the ultimate reality, that is, self and others are actually inseparable. And so that is why the Buddha taught the boundless mind, or the bound for immeasurable, as being essential. And so coming back to the 3 kayas now, to clarify. So the ignorance of the 3 kayas, it relates to the Dharmakaya and the space element. Ignorance is enlightened form. Attachment, enlightened speech, and hatred, enlightened mind. Everything gathers within enlightened mind. And so when you understand this point, then you will understand the essence of the secret mantra, the Vajrayana generation stage practice.
Tani tawe ina tani ta jeli tawe ina ta tani dhubku bijil tin kaangre yedin tani ta tanga so chawrum nangyi chaade yore tani ta dhubtab tamche nangyi lama dhaban chogo zi tani laga yi tata nga sarma ge jude la sopa 그 사고들이 그 노상지 지 차로비 장미바 요래들 하다 더 제디테라서 봐 장미바 오래 대답이 가래질 거 요래들은 대답들이 샘 대식 용보 용띠인데 제답 줄라 제답 줄면 타다 나와지 다 조야면 봐 대답 용요래 너들 감도 왕 뭐들은 너다 샘진이나 대답 나도 망게 요래들 박차세 종타메 봐 레이 용보라 레서 뭐더니 유모바 제테동 용보라더니 유모바 제테동 용보라 취조봉보 제테동 레이를 취조봉보 제테동 사제 대송바 인지 들이 샘진 감나만 나서 이제 들이 특파 장미 주방고 송바리 데르티는 때다 달문이라게 냠슬이 싫었더니 라게 시합 치와 탐정 냠슬 오 달라마 접어 접나 제가들이 너는 샘들이 다다다 거를 보지로 메다 거를 베마서도 홍지 메다 거래들은 랑그 샘자마 도지장이 메다데 도지장지를 오 도지장대 베마서도 홍지 메도 베마제들이 남전랑리 찌나요 베마는 남지 맞잖아요 말이 오 샘지 담지 대식님을 내로 또 좀 샘지 담지 류 코로나를 요는 샘 거지 마요 말이지 그래 좀 하다고 하고 요래 오 내도를 해놓은 담지 내 값들이 토리섬도다 내가 내가 저섬들 저쪽에 담는 토리섬 다고 생각 담지 이식을 하죠 이식을 함당 이식을 하고 이제 야 말로를 독탐지 따고 소지 돌로도 미신 따고 심지도 짱마줘서 샘 짱마줘서 레디 돌로지 뭐 짱마데 남자 치보지 담지 미신을 쫙 다져 가고 배다도 대다 담지 록 가래나 참아디 심지 동네를 돌아 탑레도 샘대식 정보들이 제시요 말이 제들 라마 담지는 것이 띠줘보지 호와 마다운 거 봐도 여기서 소르지 호와 마다운 거 봐도 그때 쭈거리 서영을 파시걸 파영을 서시걸 배대 됐다고요. 윤막 따위지 그 강하는 나게 요래. 라마지 거식들 약대에서 조금만 보여요. 어디 거지 그 조금만 송톡 용진 철에 가사 가니 들이다 저기 사심지 담지 타바데 되면고 남만 나도 다 좋아 수지 피바도 좋아 탐망 보이는 거요래. 대답질했더니 그 송톡 용진 철에지 대식당 용진에 되니 삼대를 되니 남반 나도 배나 야 미더지 따다다 그래 뭐 미대 담지나 대답 따라라게 뭐 피기요 따라라게 누구요리 오 대답은 노바테 거리 따라라게 레레 라게 박차를 핀바는 노바는 저거리 다 돌아라게 레사야 디나미데 남미 동이 되게 오 폐가요 그래서 나타나는 샥지를 리고도 오페도 피바리 당연히 대로 하고 우리 성소리가 당연히 샥지도 감답을 해서 이 동네에 내군에 돼요 뭐 동네 자꾸 탑봐도 요 말에 탑을 개발을 조발을 요저도 왜 마송소 송대 대답제 탑을 개발 코나마도 거는 습지에 돈 가리려면 우리 동네들 알아서 이제 동네에 파타고 요래 기서들이 정말 그래 나시 탁바람자한테 대식 정보 공로 파지와서 설지와서 반쳐요 말이 뒤통도 좀 어떻게 나갔다 그래 나갔다 그러는데 고대지가 찹대요 그래 말을 독습지 담는 성성 습지는 샘디 요는 사지가 찹대요 그래 대들이 나오양들이 대식 정보들이 제시매에 그러지 않고 맞던 거 봐도 좋았어 정말 그때 죽고로 때는 무슨 며칠 오 다들은 나사 요리 못들 샵대 두고데 샵대 좀 밑에 적대 마시리 용을 그 주제 식을 세대 식을 용말이 세대 세야 용말이 샤구나 세야 용말이야 양랑 인성속을 내 박사 맞에 뭐 인성속을 꼬아다 로데 요리 양라 타고 생각하는 요리 다 강문이 주거니 롱거 적고 생각하지 오 롱거디 강연이들 다다 세는 것은 마다 빨 만한 뭐니 것을 내가 제일 요리 내도 초박하는 용기 요리가 대지 속대 가리더라 다 딱제다 오 대래 달라 상속 센터 들어가지 다 롱거 다 자총다 거 따뜻히 제심해봐. 됐다고 남긴 통구요네. 물람 오줄이지 랑글이지 오가 물람다고 제대로 도도. 대라면 뭐시 하고 소사적 때문에 따로 그래도 농구 도도 시간데 새로 시점도 시점 맨날 다 동이 용한테 뭐거나 다 레이즈에 같이 보래도 또 레다 못 함들 레이즈에 같이 보래도 내가 동이의 용을 때 조금도 내가 레 동이 무슨 정가 제시 받아 공정 방어사서 사실 레이즈에 같이 뭐냐 레다 못 봐라 내가 송아들이 생포 제시배도 하고 그냥 바닥에 찍지요. 오, 동이 같이 용나 그 루디 내가 박차리면서 생포는 제시매서라 그 사촉 선바들 오 생분의 lok대서 대랑 하고는 다들 상지然后 当地的 상승呢 오 当地的 진필로가 오 심지로 리소동 것들이 루디랑 돌아오기만 해서 시작하다니요 말이 그 사제 좀 되게 점이 팔아서 말로서 소탐이 예요리 심지시 매바대 공거 가리고 루디도 돌아오기만 하고 따로요리 다다 저기 거는 심지 담지 오 심지만 뭐 뱀에서 대라는 게 루샤차 로한 집안행 대라 삼지 저마도니 요리 건설베테 이 사촉 생물 빠고 차들이 사촉 생물의 담아리 답변이 뭐지 소담나 현상실 때 가리쳐 나디 시에도 아고서 나디도 우리 다 가리는데 그네 따라랑 총총 시에리 총총 시에시고 티볼 시에시고 뭐 레지블 시에시고 뭐 다들 꼭 봐야 돼. 다들 꼭 봐는 다들 뭐 다들 이거 들으면 상은 되지. 다잘 제대로 돌아서면 다 세나지 그래가. 말이 되다면 이제 뭐 하고 저라 영보를 파동이 오래. 오, 저 영 파동은 별거들이 사잡베다가 시거래. 저친 등도 독도는 빠삭 빠생기서 오서. 저체 모두 잠통 총총돼서 어디 잠통 총총돼 저 영사들을 파로사 이하고 그러면 딱 발때 되도 초대 생각을 그래. 그래서 저도 뭐 초속다더니 파로사들고 그래. 내일들이 대도 그래. 내일 저치 등도 동문도 빠삭 빠진 것서 어디 대다더니 누가 있는 거는 파도서 마사 적세는 공성이 뒤쪽 받을 공성 오다 사적선 받을 사적선도 유 시설 때면서 빠고리 또 이가 빠고리 대다 유지 체대 그래서다 드바 탐색하는 또 라마 드바나 오 두섬 사제 탐색 오 로또 탐색 용에서 라 찍라 라 탐색 두섬 사제 탐색 참여 요리 오 대하고는 오 달라 찍랑 잡념이 찍으면 돼 그 세미나로 따라 되게 요리be 이제 말을 갖다 그래 대다는 자다다 달라마 드바는 딱 영영어 되게 쏜 거래. 사실은 망고를 딱 망고를 찍고 줘가 제바테라고 양손 거래. 강라 강들 때릴 때 동바테다 하고는 그러냐면 이제는 내 들어가는 때라는 강남을 바테 그러냐면 이제는 그 약고요래지.
Hear me now, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
And so that is in order to understand these points, and that is why we engage in this practice, we need such a practice. So of all the different sadhanas that exist, it is said that the supreme practice is the practice of the guru. This is, for example, mentioned in all of the classes of Tantra, of the new Tantric system. And there are so many, in particular in the new Tantric system, there are so many different deities with different implements and body colors and so forth. There are many deities, there are many different sadhanas of these deities. And so why do we need this great variety? So we need to understand that, first of all, that all these, the multitude of appearance deities are, in the end, all a quality of Buddha nature. So Buddha nature may project in myriads of ways, endless ways. And the deities appear in a multitude of ways in order to suit the mental, the dispositions, the capacities of disciples. because the thoughts in the minds of beings are endless. Therefore, antidotes, deities are endless. There is an endless number of habitual tendencies of karmic imprints. And the teachings are an antidote to each of these. It is said that the 84,000 Dharma teachings are each an antidote to the 84,000 afflictive emotions. The sentient beings, so that is why the Buddha came to provide a great variety of methods in order to benefit sentient beings. And then we take whichever of these methods and practices we are able to practice. There are those practitioners, for example, whose mental capacity is greater, who have a greater level of wisdom, and then when they if they only engage in the practice of the Guru, it actually is sufficient. Everything is complete within the Guru Rinpoche mantra, for example. So, Ama Hum Benza Guru Bema Siti Hum. Benza Guru, that refers to the utterly pure state of mind, that is Vajradhara. So the Benza is the Vajra, that is Vajradhara. And then Bema Siddhi Hong, Bema is the lotus flower. The lotus flower grows out of the mud, but remains unstained by the mud. And so, similarly, Buddha nature remains unstained. And when a sentient being realizes the nature of one's own mind, one's own Buddha nature, and even if the body still remains within samsara, the mind no longer remains within samsara, because they have realized all appearance as illusory, all experience as happiness and suffering as illusory. For example, we now find ourselves in the higher realms. That is the result of some causes of virtue that we have created. Whatever manifests to us is the projection of our own mind. The Pure Lands are a projection of primordial wisdom. The 6 realms of samsara, a projection of the 6 afflictive emotions. And the 6 realms of samsara, where we suffer, can also be seen as like a washing machine where we wash our dirty clothing. It's a place where we wash or cleanse our mind. We need soap to wash our clothing. Similarly, we need some suffering in the 6 realms of samsara to purify our mind. Meanwhile, Buddha nature always remains as it is. It is without birth and without death. For example, when we offer a long life ceremony to a Lama, we supplicate the Lama, please remain until the end of samsara, until samsara is empty. So we are, in a way, supplicating to the form of the Guru. We don't want the Guru to die. The form is the nirmana kind of form. But the form will die. We cannot keep the form, prevent the form from dying, because the physical form is a compounded phenomenon. It is an illusory form. The physical form is bound to die. But then the moment it dies, it comes again, and many purposes again appear from that Guru. And then from that again, it's not just the enlightened form, enlightened body, then also what still exists is the enlightened speech, the enlightened mind, the enlightened activities and qualities. And they manifest, appear all over the place in order to benefit sentient beings in all kinds of ways, according to their needs, according to their capacity. So as a quality of Buddha nature, the quality of love that is Buddha nature, the deities appear in various different ways. And so, right? And so, now when the karmic imprints that we have placed within our mind, because of the karmic imprints that are present within our mind, present within the self, we transform benefit into harm, and happiness into suffering. And when we experience suffering, however, as the outcome of our negative karma, we should regard it as a beneficial, positive thing. It is just like when you are sick, you undergo a surgery, cut out the sickness. And so similarly, when we go into the three lower realms, we can view them as like a surgical facility that is necessary to relieve us from our suffering in a more invasive way. It is a method to purify our mind. So wherever wherever there are sentient beings, there is suffering that is being purified as the suffering is experienced. But once suffering has become purified, what remains ultimately is appearance and existence, the universe as a vast expanse, an infinite field of purity. That is the field of Buddha nature that transcends birth and death. And when one realizes the nature of mind, Buddha nature, one realizes the space or pervasive nature of the mind that pervades all of samsara and nirvana. And so because all sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara possess a mind, they are all pervaded by the Buddha, because they're pervaded by Buddha nature. And so Buddha nature is beyond birth and death. And so that is what we should keep in mind when we offer a long life ceremony to a Lama saying, please remain until samsara is empty. And not just only look at the Lama's body. So this is how we should really perform a long life ceremony. Often we only look at the body and we think, oh, when somebody is sick, then we have to perform a long life ceremony. But we have to remember that we cannot prevent death. It is bound to happen, but also the mind cannot die. The mind never actually dies. And it will continue to go on. Either one takes birth somewhere in the lower realms, or one might take birth in a pure land of the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, or Nirmanakaya. So the Sambhogakaya, for instance, can be recognized also amongst dream states. When you go to sleep at night and you have a dream, you engage in all kinds of activities during the dream. You experience happiness and suffering during that dream. Meanwhile, what is your body doing? You are there sleeping, but you are experiencing your dream world. So if you connect this mind with bodhicitta, then what will manifest is the pure rainbow-like form of the Sambhogakaya that transcends birth and death. This will naturally manifest to you in the dream state, for instance, and you may recognize, I am in a dream state. So when you recognize the dream state and then develop a mind of bodhicitta, then what manifests is the Sambhogakaya. And the Sambhogakaya is beyond death. So again, in brief, for us beginning practitioners, if we do not want to experience suffering, it is very important to understand karma. We don't want to suffer, but we suffer temporarily. The experience of suffering is intolerable, it's unbearable. So if you cannot tolerate suffering, you have to understand suffering first, and then you have to abandon the origin of suffering, the teaching of the Buddha. So for a beginning practitioner, it is very important to understand karma, cause and effect. And finally, when we realize the ultimate truth, then we will realize that the mind transcends birth and death. Then there is no more fear, even in the bardo, no matter what manifests, no matter how much suffering around you is perceived, there is no real experience of suffering. Because one has realized that the mind transcends the suffering state. So one becomes heroic, fearless. And that's the meaning of the bodhisattva, someone who is heroic or fearless, because they have realized the nature of the mind and Having realized the nature of the mind, they have cleared away self-grasping through the altruistic mind. And this is why the bodhisattvas are able to give away even their own life, even their own body, if that benefits sentient beings. They can take it off just like an old pair of clothing. There are many stories of how the Buddha had perfected generosity by giving up parts of his own body. And it is because he had realized that the mind transcends birth and death, and the Buddha sees the body just as an insignificant old pair of clothing, and is willing to use the body in order to benefit sentient beings. That is why there are many stories of bodhisattvas who have given parts of their body, their limbs, their lungs, their liver, their heart, and so forth, if that benefits sentient beings. So that is the nature of bodhicitta. Now, if there is self-grasping in our mind, we will be afraid of even the smallest thing, like an insect bite, for example. The smallest thing scares us, but nevertheless, we are not afraid of the biggest things. We are afraid of small things, but we are not afraid of the big thing that is karmic ripening. And so that is because the self actually is quite stupid. It just thinks me all the time. And then it holds on to certain objects stingily, not knowing that things are compounded, and things come and go. As Adya Pandita has said, things have to come and go, just like the small water has to flow into the big water to make the vast ocean, make the big water, and then it moves out again. So it has to go, it comes around, it goes both ways. And so along those lines he then said, and therefore we should confess our negativity. So when one practices like the bodhisattvas practice, one engages in their conduct of the bodhisattvas, one becomes fearless or heroic, just like this. And so in order to accomplish this, we engage in the practice of the guru. The guru embodies the essence of all the Buddhas of the three times. In a single deity, all the deities, all the Buddhas of the three times are complete. If you understand that, you can take one deity and just practice one deity, knowing that all deities are complete within this one deity. And when you then look at the nature of your mind, you recognize that the space-like nature of the mind that pervades all the deities. You become just like Milarepa. So this is the purpose of practicing the guru. The guru practice is a very concise practice that is suitable for many. And there's other individuals who prefer longer, more complicated practices. That is why there is a great variety of practices to suit the needs and aspirations of different kinds of individuals. So engage in the practice on the basis of such an understanding, and practice whatever suits you the best.
Sukdukayo mebawa, subujayo mebawa, anorado mebawa, sawa sete mebarinda, sawa karma sudam. Sudam jirang guru hong, ha 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 hu, bangame, sawa tatanda, pedaman. Bedaba ma samaya sato, yeda ma hede tabawa, hede teke tatangata heo. Niroda madama sharmana, take a lunch break.
All right, so we'll take a 2-hour lunch break. We'll come back at 2 o'clock Pacific time. Please remember you can count your mantras and you can put them on the mantra counter on our website, garchen.net, at any time within the 3 days of the retreat. We'll see you back here at 2 o'clock Pacific time.